Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Infor TechTV. In this session, we'll be discussing everything about iPaaS. That's Integration Platform as a Service. My name's Keith Knuth. I'm the Senior Director of Platform Product Strategy here at Infor, and I'll be your host for this session. Welcome, everyone, from both LinkedIn and YouTube to this month's session. You're all joining us live. So again, a live event means that this session is what you make of it. It is driven by the comments and the posts and the questions and the interactions you make via your chat, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on LinkedIn. So we don't really have an agenda. We're going to talk about iPaaS, but that's all the further we've decided to go. Your comments are crucial to guiding us. So think of it like we're all in a coffee shop and we're all talking. This is intimate. This is fun, and you can drive where it goes. If you are an Infor employee or an Infor partner joining the call, please keep the chat lines open. We want to make sure that our customers are given their questions priority. And for everyone listening, please stay on the live to the very end, because at the end, we'll be posting a free download link to a ION cheat sheet. ION is Infor's iPaaS solution. And we'll give you a cheat sheet that will help you get started understanding the solution. And even for people who may be experts, it's a nice thing to post on your wall as a reference. So stay tuned for that until the end. But before we go any further, and because this is a live session, I need to post a disclaimer to keep our lawyers happy. So any number of topics may come up, including questions about the future of products, our roadmap, proposed dates, etc. So we just need to be clear that we aren't making any promises in this session when we talk about the future. And with that out of the way, let's get to know our experts for this episode. First step is Vignesh Subramanian. Vignesh.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. This is Vignesh. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management with the Infor OS Platform Technology Group. Infor OS stands for Infor Operational Services. It is the tech platform of all enterprise software and the enterprise cloud of Infor. Of that, I'm responsible for integrations, UX, the chat assistant, robotic process automation, and so on. So that's my profile. I'm based out of Netherlands. Happy to be here and directly connect with our users. So please make this as interactive as you can. Any questions you have in the field of integrations or specifically on our products, or if you want to know if we are busy with something or going to build something, anything to do with integrations, and anything that's on your mind, please feel free to shoot in the Q&A, and hope this would be a nice interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Vignesh. Next up is Giampaolo Spagoni.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this stage. My name is Giampaolo Spagoni. I'm a team leader for the content development for the Infor OS. Have an experience about more than 10 years on the integration, in specific case with the Infor OS. I'm a part of the KIT team, and I'm really pleased to be here with you. So ask any question that you like to do or you want to have to know about the ION Connect. Thank you.
Vignesh is our expert on product and product future. Giampaolo is our expert when it comes to implementations. He's been in our services group for many, many years, got a wealth of knowledge there. Laura, you're up next.
Hello, thank you, Keith. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Pascual Perez, and I'm a Principal Solution Architect on the Platform Technology Experience team. I've been with him for a bit more than 20 years. I started as a consultant and drive my way into other consultancy teams until I ended up here in the Platform Technology Experience team. Between all, one of the main goals that we have is work with services delivery, as well as we mentor implementations, we support projects. We also have pre-sales. We're part of the enablement team. So basically our goal is to drive adoption of our platform technology right through our customers. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura, for being here. And last but not least is Sudhakaran from one of our partners, LeanSwift. And that's the first time we've had one of our partners on this show. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Keith. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sudhakaran Samadurai. I'm an integration consultant working as a technical lead in LeanSwift, a Wipro company, and an Infor Alliance partner. I have 5 years of experience in Infor products, predominantly in Infor ION and M3. I work on integrations, H5 web applications, and used to work on M3 implementation. Here, my role is to work on implementation projects, integrate with Infor products. I used to train and mentor consultants on Infor ION and M3, and also lead a team of developers in LeanSwift. And apart from that, I used to spend time on Infor community to connect with partners, customers, and discuss solutions. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Your participation in our online community has been awesome over the years. So really appreciate that. And I hope everyone listening knows that we have an online community that is very vibrant and a great way to meet other users and ask for help when you need it. So,
yeah.
All right, let's jump into our topic for today. Remember that the chat line's open. So feel free to start posting questions to our experts. I see some hellos from different countries out there. I will ask you to keep the question on the topic of enterprise integration, though, and also remind people that we can't really do tech support. So if you got a particular issue that you're getting through, contact us or go into one of those communities and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
But actually, talking about countries, we're all in actually different countries right now, aren't we? This is pretty amazing technology here in the post-COVID world that we can broadcast. Every one of us is in a different country right now, so that's pretty awesome.
Cool.
But while we're seeing, and I see Zambia, Singapore, UAE, India. Boy, we've got a great audience.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Sorry, coming in. So that's awesome. So maybe we'll start off with kind of a get started question here. The topic of the session was iPaaS, and I think most people know that term, but really, Vignesh, maybe get us started with what does that mean? Why is it important? How does it relate to IT agility, which we also put in the title of this session? Give us just an overview quickly.
Absolutely. So iPaaS, you mentioned in the beginning, is the abbreviation for Integration Platform as a Service. Integration is one of those bread and butter technology needs in any IT landscape. It is the glue which connects multiple applications. I mean, one application could be a Linux-based application, another one could be Windows-based. They could be talking different languages. So making these applications talk to one another, you typically need a message bus, a broker, integration platform. So that is basically the domain of integration. And when we host it in a multi-tenant cloud and offer it as a service, then that's simply put what we call integration platform as a service. Why is it important for agility? I can answer that very briefly from our customer standpoint and our customer standpoint, right? Let's talk from our customer standpoint. In integration, you need an enterprise service bus. You need an API management gateway. You need a workflow engine. You need a monitoring system, right? You can go and buy the best in class of all these vendors in different places, or you can buy one solution which offers all this, which is what our Infor OS iPaaS platform is. It's a one-stop shop for all your integration needs. Therefore, it cuts down enormously on your implementation life cycles, go live life cycles, configuration, maintenance, and so on. So agility from day one, number one. Number two, your business is evolving, growing. Today you are servicing 10 users. Tomorrow you may be servicing 100. 2 months later, you are servicing 1,000. So as your business grows exponentially, you need to also be agile to service and scale up to your business needs. Obviously, integration is key in this. The number of messages that go through as the users increase and so on. So you need a system that keeps you agile. So that's where integration is key for you to grow your business. And from your customer standpoint, let's say if they are ordering something, they want something by tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Or if they make a request, they want it delivered today. Or, the pace with which the business needs to answer the demands of our end users That also needs to be agile. And guess what? It's the integration who is the workhorse that's carrying messages back and forth across all systems to make these magic happen. So integration is at the core of agility, both for our customers and for the experience of our customer's customer. So,
and I think, as you mentioned, iPaaS is part of the bigger OS ecosystem, right? And so, yes, integration needs to grow as IT grows and your business grows, but then because OS has a data lake and AI and document management and all the other components, they're all there, right? They're all waiting for you to take advantage of them. You don't have to go through a long, complex procurement process to procure more. As your business grows, it's all just waiting there, saying, "Hey, we're ready when you need us."
absolutely.
You kind of touched on the topic of a hub, that it's in the middle of all these integrations. Laura, sometimes in your experience in services in the field, sometimes people will say, well, point-to-point integrations are bad. We need a hub, or we need a hub and spoke integration architecture. Can you tell us a little bit why that is, why point-to-points are considered bad, and how Infor's iPaaS solves that?
Well, I mean, one of the main reasons why we say point-to-point is bad, let's say, is when you need to modify that integration, when you need to change it. That normally involves that you need to change both applications to make that change happen. So it's not agile at all. Versus when you have an integration hub, normally when there is a change, you only have to change one of the two equations, and the hub will take care of adapting to that change. So from an integration point of view, using the platform technology, the hub, will give you much more. It involves maintenance, scale out, versioning, everything around that. It just makes using the platform much easier for customers.
I think it's true that most of your changes happen in the hub too, right? Where point to point, you're often putting custom code in this system so that it sends the right data, custom code in this system so that it can transform that data, and you're left with all these customizations. Where in a hub, all the transformations, all the connections are done in the middle, and you can maintain it all in one place, right? I think for me that really rings true with the value of a hub. All right, I'm looking at the comments. I saw there was one with a licensing question. We're not going to get into the licensing questions in this chat, but to be general, yes, you can license failover systems, disaster recovery failover, whatever, from Infor. So please contact your account executive to work through that. I see some people offering to help each other. That's good. Please start posting your questions there so that we can pick up on them. Speaking of that hub and data transformations, that's a big part of enterprise integration, is mapping. System A sends out a purchase order, and System B wants that purchase order, but it isn't anything like what System A is kicking out. Gianpaolo, your experience, what are the most common kind of mapping problems? What do people look for in an iPaaS solution? How does Infor solve that?
Well, thank you, Keith, for this question, because this is a very common question coming from customer and partners. So in our environment, we use the messaging, which is called the BOD, the business object document, which is an XML structure. But sometimes, or most of the time, customers have a different type of a structure of the messages that they want to exchange. And for this reason, we need to transfer, we need to map different types of data from one format to another. And in order to do that, we have in our platform, we have the graphical tool, which is called the mapper, in which we can translate, we can map different type of data. In this specific case, we can map just the XML. So we can create different types of BOD, which means we can transform one sync BOD to a process BOD, or we can change the format of the data itself. But not only the graphical mapper is the tool that we can have in our platform, because we have another feature which is called the scripting, in which we can create Python script in order to manage all types of different formats. So we can transfer from XML to JSON, we can transfer to JSON to XML, we can transfer to JSON to NDJSON to CSV file. So we have a long list of tools that we can use within our platform to manage this kind of a transformation when it's required to make a mapping for different types of formats.
Okay, and as you're explaining that, I'm thinking that some of our viewers may think, oh, that sounds like writing code. You mentioned Python, you mentioned XML and JSON. Why don't I just do this in Java or .NET? Why am I using your hub? Does anyone have, I'm sure someone has, a screen up of the visual tools that are involved in this iPaaS platform, right? Can someone share that quickly, the document flow, so that we can see how that looks? Because it can sound a little scary, right? Of having to know code to do this, but that's not really what you're talking about.
Yeah, let me try to share my screen and let me try to give you a short view of our application. So I need to share. Okay, let me go here and share the Chrome tab.
Also, Keith, to add to what you're talking about is that, well, if an application can post, for example, the XML, the bots that Gianpaolo is talking about, which are the XML representation of a business object, if their OH is compliant, if they develop those messages following that in industry standard format, it's just plug and play, because our applications also talk that language. So, the integration, it's done right away. You only need to model the integration and that's it. Both applications would speak to each other without problems.
Yeah, that makes sense. Our producers, I think, there you go. Thank you for sharing Gianpaolo's screen. So you mentioned BODs there, Laura, too, and so did you, Gianpaolo. So we'll get to defining what that is. But Gianpaolo, go ahead and show us.
Okay,
here.
so yeah, as you can see, we are in the ION desk part. As you can see on the left side, we have different submenu here, and one of these is scripting, which I mentioned before, in which we can have our Python scripting, which is quite easy. I want to show you, for example, one simple scripting. Forgive me, but I have an issue with the mouse. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, let me try to click on here.
Gianpaolo, if you could just hit, Control plus or zoom in a little bit on your screen, just because our resolution is a little smaller here on the line.
You see now? You see now?
We can see it. Just zoom in just a little bit. Control plus or zoom in with your mouse, whatever works in your browser.
1 second, because I've issued the mouse. Of course, when you are live, that things happens.
So while he's making it a little bit bigger so we can see, Sudhakaran, maybe you could tell us a little bit about with that term BODs. What does that mean? That's not a term maybe everybody knows, coming from different industries.
Yes. So when someone say BOD, board, it's a business object document. It's not that big, means what I'm saying is it's a simple one. No one has to scare about that. It's just an XML defined by Infor, which follows some standards. So it has a structure where it has application area and data area, where application area defines what kind of pod it is, and data area gives the business context of the pod actually. So let's say a customer order is created and the customer order information will be in the data area, and that information can be shared with any of the application. For example, if we take Infor products, it can be communicated with WMS or CPQ anywhere. Means it can be transferred over to any application where they can easily understand the XML.
So these XML messages being sent through, they're standard. I think Laura mentioned a group called Oasis developed these. They're kind of a set of schemas that everybody should follow for a purchase order or a sales invoice or whatever you have. and they're the way that Infor communicates. But
Communicates.
what if, like we were talking about, what if we need to do transformation? What if I'm connected to some other system and they're sending me
Yes.
CSV or JSON or EDI or whatever, but my Infor application would prefer I use a BOD. What do I do?
Yep. I believe Jim Paul is going to show that, but let me tell some more about that in that area. So let's say we have a purchase order board from one of the Infor application, okay, and it needs to be sent to, we'll take an example of sending it to an Amazon, okay, or a customer order to Amazon, okay. What happens is they would be giving us an API to communicate, and that would be added to an API gateway in Infor ION, okay, and it requires a JSON output, means it requires a JSON request. In that case, we will use the Python script to modify the board we have into the required format using a Python script, okay, and it can be forwarded to the Amazon API through the ION API gateway. That is one possible solution. And the next one, you said about coding, right? People don't want to see the code and they want to use it easily. So that way, if they only want the XML instead of a JSON, they want XML, means we can use the graphical mapper. It's a very easy tool where we can just map and we can add our math functions there to make changes to the XML and send that XML directly to the API. That is possible.
Yeah, let me add some color to what Sudhakaran said. Obviously, BARD is the language of how applications within Infor talk to one another, and it provides a well-defined canonical structure for complete business objects. But obviously, as Keith mentioned, if the third-party systems do not speak XML, do not speak BARDs, that's where the power of an open platform like ION and Gateway comes into picture. Jim Paulo is about to show the Python scripting based mapping options. Sudhakaran mentioned about the visual mapping options. All are great tools. We also have additional mapping options on the gateway to do transformation through handlebar framework. So the flexibility of InfoOS platform is such that we let the application speak the language that they are comfortable. We don't push them that, hey, you have to speak BARDs or you have to speak XML. There is no such compulsion. We let the participants be what they are good at, and we have got the tools to have you covered. And we are the translator in between. It's our job to translate one language to another. So you just give your event, we will transform it to the way that the receiver wants, right? So that's the power of our iPaaS solution.
Again, you're doing these transformations in the hub, right? So this is where we go back to our point-to-point versus hub discussion. I'm not doing it in the sending application. I'm not forcing it to comply. I'm not doing it in the receiving application, forcing it to change, right? Those things can stay the same.
Absolutely.
Everything happens in the hub, right?
Yeah.
So these are the scripts that Gianpaolo was trying to show. He's got a problem with the mouse, but anyway. So for example, JSON to XML, this would be an example of how you would script this in order to do that transformation.
Yep.
So you can have versionings here as well, not approve, approve, it gives you quite a bit of functionality.
Yeah.
So you can go to Python scripting if you need to do those type of advanced transformations. Can you open up a document flow, Laura, and just kind of show the general how I tell ION where system A is, where system B is, how the data flows between them?
Yeah, well, for example, within let's say the ION desk is the application that allow us to model all these document flows and data flows. Well, we have an example here from an ERP sends information, for example, to our data lake. In this case, so it would be as easy as drag and drop the application. Here you would have the details of that application, how to connect to that application, and this application would subscribe to publish certain documents. Obviously, you don't need to publish everything, just what you want to send, in this case, to data lake. But over here, you could have other applications. Let's find, for example, another example. Well, file, let's see, this is coming from, from an API call, for example, to get some information, currency API, and it would be a mapping in between, which could convert that information into something that the ERP can ingest. So this is basically the canvas where you actually design your integrations, and then after that you just simply activate them in order to runtime those models.
Yeah. So this is really the power of our iPaaS solution, right? You have a visual queue on your process that you can nicely construct your process. And I would like to attract your attention to the color coding on top, right? You have orange colored boxes, green colored boxes, and blue colored boxes on the top on the toolbox. That's for a reason, right? All the orange colored boxes represent applications that are participating in an integration. They are either the source of an event or receiver of an event, or something where you are using in between to enrich the information, right? Those are the actual applications. Everything that is to do with green, those are all to do with steps where you are massaging the data and changing the data, right? Either a mapping or a scripting, or with a workflow where you want to update a status and so on. So the green ones, those are used to change the data. And the blue ones, those are all the logical elements that you want to execute a condition, you want to go parallel, or you want to filter, right? So, we have these nicely visually driven modeling of a process. You don't need to be a whiz-kid knowing complex integration languages. You know that application A is sending an event, it's in XML, I want to convert it to JSON, and then I want to give it to application B. If this is your pseudo code in your mind, you can represent that live here in our modeler, right? That's a very nice way of doing integration in my view.
You're showing a very simple one there, Laura. It looks like you're sending from one orange icon A, system A, to one orange icon, system B. But looks like you could drop in a parallel step there and go to multiple systems, right? So it's more that hub and spoke where I'm broadcasting this message to multiple places.
So it's as easy as I said. We can send this information to a parallel application, so to an ERP and to a message queue, for example. So that would be, some routing that we can do of those messages. We can also do, filtering. We can merge documents as well. So basically, you can, have as many in one document flow. You can have as many integrations as you need to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We had a question come in on LinkedIn from Sunil. What about custom bots? What if there isn't a bot available for what I want to do? In other words, do they need some XML scripting to integrate to other applications?
Well, I can answer to this question, Keith. And this is another common question coming from a customer or partner. What about if I don't have in the standard repository of the bot the message that I want to use? Well, in our platform, we can have the file template. So Laura, if you would like to go to the file template, please, for me, because I have issue. And in the file template, we have a nice feature in which you can define your custom bot. And the nice way in which you can do that is you can be driven by a template, which means in the file template, we can create a custom bot without writing any line of code. And you have different type of custom bot that you can create with the file template. So we can create bots coming from a flat file. We can create bot coming from fixed length file. We can create bots coming from XML, because we also upload the structure of an XML, and then we can generate out of the box the structure of the bot internally. So you don't need to write any line of the code in order to create a custom bot. This is a really nice feature that we have in our environment to integrate also third-party type of messages that we don't have in the standard one, because we have a standard repository with all the board which are defined standard for, of course, for all the Infor application. But if you don't find your own, you can create your custom one, and you don't need to do that. The use of the scripting or the graphical mapper tool is just to make, I would say, a conversion or a transformation between what is your standard board and maybe the standard board that is used by the Infor product. So if you have a custom message, you can create your custom message really easy in the tool itself, and then you can map the data coming from your custom messages to the standard messages that can be consumed by the Infor application. So that is a really, really cool feature that we have to develop.
That makes sense. I think a lot of customers, as they grow and as they're doing a lot of these messages back and forth, data standards and data quality come into play, right? How does this platform solve that?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So data quality is, it's huge to make sure that you are not having multiple versions of the same data, you are not having incomplete data, and so on. So we have inbuilt versioning of messages in the platform. So let's say if there is 10 successive version of the same event, then obviously you can find out which one is the latest, so that you are not bothered with all the redundant data. So you can always work with the greatest and latest version of the data, thereby ensuring that the quality is of the latest and not bothered with the other waste iterations. And where data is missing, you can easily put checks in your flow to check for mandatory elements. And if they are missing, you can alert people to go have a look at it. You can have schema validation to make sure that all the schematic adherences are in place. And of course you can, as I said, trigger notifications and tasks for people to go and fix missing data or to replay the flows to make sure that the data reaches the right place. Yeah, so again, there are lots of tools to manage this. Very good question, Keith.
And to add upon Vignesh's statement, so with the data that comes into the platform, it's the ION platform, it's always better to register it as an in the object schemas. It doesn't need to be a board always. It can be a CSV, it can be a JSON or anything. So if it is registered in the data catalog, then it is recognized, because or else it will go as an any document. Any document can be anything in ION. So if we register it as in the data catalog, that will give more provision for us to track and work with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've covered, what an enterprise hub is, how these flows kind of are built, and how they transform data. What about connecting to the systems themselves? Infor is known as a cloud company. I'm sure we can connect, and we've mentioned APIs, which are standard connecting to cloud applications. But what about on-premise? There's still a lot of applications left on-premise, a lot of older legacy apps, a lot of IoT systems, edge systems. How can this reach down from the cloud and make those type of connections?
Laura, why don't you take that? Yeah.
Okay. So sorry, when it comes to on-premise and means integrating an on-premise with a cloud solution, recently we had a scenario for a customer. We integrated an on-premise solution with Infor Cloud using an enterprise connector. So Infor provides a tool, means a connector called an enterprise connector, that can be used to integrate an on-premise solution, where the on-premise application can send information to ION using that enterprise connector, a database URL, which pulls the which transfers the board or any information to the ION.
So that
So
enterprise connector, that's a separate application. How does that work?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Can you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a very nice slide illustrating what Sudhakaran just mentioned. So it's nicely complementing what he said, that we have this component called Enterprise Connector, which is a local liaison to talk to all your local applications. So it's like a agent of Infor OS running locally in your network. It not only solves the problem of integration, it also solves the problem of local printing that you may have, or if you have a local API that you don't want to expose, you can also proxy that using this Enterprise Connector. But many customers are buying software as a service. They obviously don't want to run anything local, right? This is purely an opt-in way of connecting local systems. If your local systems can speak either APIs or SFTP, then we have the zero footprint option, which do not require an enterprise connector. You can directly communicate your local applications with the Infor Cloud over the wire, subjected to all security checks, including avoiding throttling and making sure that there is no DDoS type of attack, making sure that the best-in-class security over the wire is ensured, and so on. So that's where our gateway comes in, which could be a nice segue to talk about the API management. But yeah, this is our hybrid strategy where we have enterprise connector based, or we also support zero footprint based options.
Okay. So the enterprise connector is that edge application that bridges the gap between cloud and on-prem, right? Makes those secure connections back and forth. That makes sense, and that's part of the iPaaS solution as well. It's included with it.
Absolutely, yes. It's free of charge. Everybody can download it and then install it and have fun.
Okay. All right.
I mean, the enterprise connector is free of charge, not the whole OS.
not everything, right? All right. We still need to pay the bills, right?
Right.
Okay. So we had a question coming from Adnan. Says, hello on YouTube. Hello, can we create a data flow between data lake in the cloud and a database SQL on premise with one of these connection points?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, one of you can take it, also show the live demo, or I can show. So we have this concept of data lake flow, and then we have the concept of document flow, right? So let me quickly share once again. Yeah, so here, hopefully the resolution is okay. Should I make it bigger if you want?
A little bit full screen, F11, or maybe you're on a Mac, and then a little bit bigger, yes.
No, let me just do the full screen here. That's easier. Enter full screen.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. And then here, if you see on the connect section, we have data flows. And when we go to data flows, if you click new button, you have two choices. You either can create a document flow or a data lake flow. Document flow is when you want to connect any two systems with each other. Data lake flow is a specific type of flow where either the source or the destination is data lake, which is our own core repository, part of our data fabric. So if you select data lake flow, you can see what all options you have. In this case, you would say then retrieve, because you are retrieving from data lake. The retrieval can be either object-based or query-based.
Can you zoom in just a little bit there? Sorry, I know our viewers are going to have a tough time when our video is on the right and your browser is on the left.
Sorry, I maybe went overboard. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks good.
There you go.
This looks good. So you see, you can retrieve from the data lake. Either it could be an object-based retrieval or a query-based retrieval. So in your case, I think you wanted to do a query-based retrieval. In fact, the query one is a fairly new addition about 2-3 months ago that we added. So, let me delete that, and then let me, you can put a query-based retrieval where you can run the query, which will retrieve the data from data lake. And if you want to put it to a database, you can put it directly to your own local database. We also have an ETL tool, by the way, which is also used to extract data and to send it to a local database that you have. So yeah, we have many options.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason why you can do that, Vignesh, is because as we discussed before, in the database connection point, we use the enterprise connector, which is the bridge between the on-prem and the cloud. So in this case, what we do, we just read the data from the data lake, which is on the cloud, and through the DB connector, the database connection point, which use the enterprise connector, we are able to transfer the data to the on-premise.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
And
there are many ways of extracting data from the data lake. For example, you can use APIs as well. So ETL tool and everything that Giampaolo mentioned as well.
yeah,
So
on the other hand, like we have to write a store procedure as well in the on-premise data, means on-premise database, and invoke it from the database connection point.
interesting. That opens up a lot of options. I can't help but think you guys spend a lot of time with customers. How big does this get? Are we talking about thousands of transactions a day, millions of transactions a day? Is the volume come from system to system or from IoT systems? How does this scale? How big can it get? What do you see in reality in the field?
So I can take that. I think I may also have a slide to just illustrate our live data traffic. So let me quickly, spend a few minutes and bring up that slide. So basically, you see in the cloud, it's all about volume game, right? And the volumes are exponential. So when we started 2 years ago in the cloud, yeah, this is the slide I wanted to bring up. So when we started in cloud, it was a very modest deployment, right? But you see it like a hockey stick. Now, as we speak, if I'm right, we have close to 2 billion API calls per month across all our tenants, and a comparable number of ION events, also close to 2 billion BARD messages and other type of messages on the ION bus. So it's phenomenal amount of scale that happens on the cloud side. So I just put this slide to highlight these numbers. These are as of February and March, and now we are in June. So these have still grown exponentially. So yeah, just to give some numbers for you, Keith.
Okay, so that's total. That's what Infor is handling in the cloud. For a particular customer, what do you can you talk about some of the implementations you've seen? Where is this used? Is it between a CRM system and an ERP system? Is it between IoT and ERP? Is it between an analytics system and a data warehouse? Give us some flavor of how this is used.
Well, I mean, what I've seen in our experience, I mean, normally customers with an ERP that drives all the business processes. So while they mainly interested on sharing the information for reporting purposes, BI purposes, and making their dashboards. Also in terms of business processes like workflows when they have to approve documents, interaction with users to resolve some of the integrations. But we've seen, like, depending on the customer obviously, but a large amount of document flows where or even workflows. You can have hundreds of workflows on a given customer because they're dealing with different business processes. So it all it's being handled by the platform as without problems, I would say.
But yeah, Keith, also from my perspective, what I've seen, both system to system integration generates a lot of traffic, as well as the data lake use cases through ION also is a candidate where the traffic is very high.
Okay. And I think one of your slide you just showed with those stats, Vignesh, one of the last one was API messages sent, and we really haven't touched on that. We've kind of been focusing on a message queue, right, where one system publishes a message, ION decides, who's subscribing to this, sends that message on like a mailman to other systems. But then there's this concept of an API gateway, right? Where now I have a scenario where I need real-time messages. Like I have a button on a website, right? I need to click it and get stock on hand. And that needs to be real-time. I need to get that data back. How does ION solve that?
Sudhakaran, do you want to take that?
Yeah, exactly. So I have a scenario for this actually. So it's about an ERP integration with an e-commerce website. So what happens is from an e-commerce website, a user can place an order. That becomes a customer order, and that will be placed as a purchase. Means again, it becomes a purchase order to the ERP when it comes in. For that, the e-commerce website will use an ION API gateway to communicate with Infor. For an example, I'll take M3 as an ERP here. It will use an M3 ION API to communicate, and the security that is being used here is OAuth. So an OAuth file will be shared with the e-commerce, means that e-commerce client to communicate with Infor M3. And through a one-point communication and authorization, it can directly connect with the ERP system and make the API calls possible. And as in return, it will give a response back to the e-commerce saying the request is succeeded or it's failed or whatever the response exactly is.
Yeah.
So ION API acts as like a reverse proxy, kind of a brokering system that helps the third-party software or to communicate with the Infor. It's a vice versa also. Means it doesn't need to be an e-commerce platform that always connects to an M3, means an Infor product. It also be a vice versa, where Infor products can send information to any of the third-party applications.
Yeah, Sudhakaran nailed it, right? Let me just quickly share my screen to complement what he said. So, Keith, API Gateway is the product that is offering all API management features of InfoOS and ION. Just in a nutshell, it acts as the uniform reverse proxy layer that just Sudhakaran highlighted. The advantage there is that your business critical APIs are not directly exposed to internet. Then they are vulnerable to all kind of attacks from the internet. So we keep your business critical APIs secure and safe behind the fort. And Gateway is this brave soldier who is facing the internet and protecting your APIs, right? Simply put. So for security is very important, having policies to stop DDoS attack kind of patterns. If you want to, enforce fair use and not let one client hog all the usage, you can put quota policies to make sure that the usage is moderated. If your APIs are not offering the feature you want, but 2-3 APIs together can offer that, then Gateway provides an orchestration layer where you can combine and chain multiple APIs and expose one composite powerful API. And of course, for the zero footprint hybrid integration use case, Gateway also is a very important ally in integration. Giampaolo, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine. You're right, Vignesh. And I want to add something else about the scenario in which you can use the API, which is really interesting. Actually, as Sudhakaran said, you can use the API integration with the third-party application, with the e-commerce and so on and so forth. But the nice part is that you can use the API also within the document flow in the Infor document flow itself, because we have a connector, which is the API connector, in which you can use. So you can have two different approaches to the use of the API. You can use the API as a standalone API gateway, as Sudhakaran mentioned before, with the e-commerce that make an API call to interact with our platform like M3, LN, whatever is it. But we can use also the API within the document flow if you want to retrieve some information out of the box. Think about, for example, you want to get each day the latest exchange rate of the currency. So what you can do, you can have document flow in which started the process for one application, and you want to convert this amount from dollars to euro to rupee, whatever you need. And with an API, you can invoke an exchange rate API, which gives you the latest conversion rate, and you can apply that one on the fly. So this is another interesting option that you have using the API gateway.
That's a good example for a real-time need. And I think you corrected me a little bit there. I kind of made it too simplistic before, where ION can do the message queue stuff, and then ION can do the API gateway stuff, and those are two separate things. What you just described was blending them, right? Which
correct.
I can take a message queue that's passing a message through, but then in the middle of that, I can call an API and enrich that message with a currency rate. In your example.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So we're getting a better picture here. A question coming in from Kadhar on LinkedIn: how big a bod size can be in ION if ION receives or sends periodical stats to one application to another? Well, maybe just messages, or maybe not just bod, but JSONs or XML, or
Again,
what are we talking about here?
Let me give a quick thoughts on, Jimpal and Lara can add to it. So when we talk about message size, there are two type of scenarios. One is a lift and shift scenario, where you just want to transport the message as is without doing any check on it, without converting it, without mapping it, without doing any scripting. You just want to move from A to B. Then our capacity is very high. And in the top tier, I think we allow up to 50 MB of messaging for lift and shift. But if you have to do a lot of processing on that payload, we say recommended best practice is 5 MB. But then there are also well-defined patterns on how to break a large message into multiple batches, and you can do it in batch. So that's a well-documented procedure. And of course, going ahead, it is streaming and more this live stream of data, which kind of takes out the message size out of the equation. That's a roadmap topic that we are working on. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing kind of depends on the scenario, right? So really simple scenarios, 5 megabytes is maybe best practice, but then there's all sorts of, I imagine APIs, real time, you tend to try to shrink the message size as much as you can if you need real time transactions, right, and if there's any processing involved.
Yep.
What are you
And
seeing? Go ahead, Jean-Paul.
Oh, sorry. And actually, we have also another feature in our ION platform, which is the splitting component, in which, as it was said, Vignesh, what you can have if you receive a baud, a 5 mega baud, and you want to speed up your processing on the end side, what you can do, you can split this baud in several bauds which are smaller compared to the previous one, and this speed up the elaboration at the end of the integration. So you can use that one as well, and this is a nice feature that we have introduced a long time ago. Yeah.
Excellent input, Jimpalo. Yeah.
All right, another question coming in from Sunil on LinkedIn. Can I understand that between Infor applications, currently there's a limited integration through ION? For example, Infor CRM to Infor LN, or Infor LN to CPQ or EAM. Only defined bods, standard bods, can be published. So I think what he's asking is, what if I need to send a message that Infor doesn't already send, or receive a message that Infor doesn't already receive? How do I extend the solution?
Yeah. Right. Anyone wants to take it? Yeah.
Yeah, I can take it up. So if it is a standard board and there is no information shared already, let's say we are sending an item master board from one application to another application, means to the CPQ or maybe to a WMS, okay, and it doesn't have the information that WMS required. Okay, in that place, an user area is available in all the boards now, and a person can add user-defined fields in user area and send it to the other application. Means it may be a WMS or CPQ. It can be transferred on the other end. Means on the other Infor application, there has to be a change made to accept the changes. Means to get the information from the user area. So that is one way of doing it, and that is how we used to do for our customers. We'll not modify the schema of the standard board. The reason is, if we modify, then that will not be a standard board anymore. That becomes a customized one. So we used to just modify the mapping alone. Only the mapping becomes a customized one. Means the boards becomes the user area only grows. It doesn't affect the schema of the board. So it still stays as a standard one.
Very good, sir. And let me add 30 seconds more information to it. I think the answer is all about extensibility, right? Extensibility is in several layers. If you want to customize a standard board, you can do it through user area, which Sudhakaran just brilliantly explained. If it is a key value pair that you want to add, it's very easy. You don't have to change the schema. If you want to add chunks of missing data, you can do via user area extension. If it is a brand new board that doesn't exist, of course, all our enterprise software have a tools layer. For example, if it is LN, we have LN tools. If it's M3, we have MEC. If it's EAM, we have Data Bridge. These avenues allow you to define your own extensible components, which can be then published to ION as well. So,
and you showed that earlier with the the object library, right? That be able to register your own objects. You could register a whole new XML object in there that ION's never seen before, and then publish that from somewhere. And you know, we're stuck on BODs and XML here, but if your application publishes CSV, you're still okay. Publishes JSON, you can register any of that and publish that.
Yeah.
Or if you have an Infor application, which I think was what Sunil was talking about, you don't even have to get the data from the application directly. You can get it from the data lake. So you could query the data lake, extract your new type of document, whatever data you want, and send that, and not even use a BOD, right?
Yeah, we actually have some tools, Keith, for generating these new objects. For example, if you have a connection point to a database, you have a database, a third party, a table, and you want to extract, you want to make a schema out of that. We we basically have the tools to connect through, in this case, the enterprise connector, and crawl that data, and it would just automatically give you a wizard where you just see your table and you select the properties, the type of field, etc., your main key, and it's just easy to configure.
So
It's all
the data
included.
loader and the data crawler. I think
Exactly.
there's a YouTube video on our YouTube channel about that. And you're right, that's a great tool that's really agnostic, right? Or reach down, grab whatever data you want from a database and bring it up to the cloud.
Yes.
Okay, Laura, while I've got you talking, we're getting towards the end of our hour. We've learned this is an extremely flexible and scalable tool. There's going to be a lot more to learn, I'm sure, for people who are watching. What are the options for education? Where can someone go to get more info?
Well, basically, in Infor, we have our training in campus. So that's one of the options. Also, we have standard training material that we have for all the components within the platform technology that we can customize based on the customer needs, let's say. So customer can approach the services team, and we can tailor the training, based on a standard, in order to address, everything that they need to know.
Okay, so campus.infor.com for standard video-based and even instructor-led training. Our services team can do custom training. The producers have been posting links to our YouTube channel where you can do lots of kind of just bite-sized tutorials. Those are all options. I think that's great.
Yeah, the most important one.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Most important one is our community. So we have Sudhakaran, who is our community star here. So when you want to learn more, or when you are stuck, when you are not sure how to proceed further, we have our own thriving community of ION and Data Lake. I think it's 1,400, 1,500 people strong, and very actively responded and watched every time. Sudhakaran, why don't you, give your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. It means there are materials available to learn about the Infor products, honestly. But when it comes to a specific scenario and a problem that we face, we'll not be able to figure out through the materials, honestly. So in that scenarios, I used to go and post questions on community and used to get answers from everyone. It's not about only the Infor employee. A partner can jump in and help us. Even a customer knows a solution, and they came and they faced this scenario and they used to help us. So that's how I used to get a lot of information from community. Actually, most of them are like Infor ION, H5 scripting, Action M3, everything. Means all the applications in Infor, I used to get solutions, and I also used to get more knowledge, communicate with people, and that helps a lot.
I'm really glad you found it helpful out there. I find it helpful listening to our customers talk about how they're using the solutions out there too, even. So, well, we've reached the end of our time. And for those people that have stuck with us, I promised that we would reward you with a download. So in the chat right now, there's a link to our ION cheat sheet, and there's a QR code on the screen right now that if you scan that, it'll link to the cheat sheet. And it's kind of a 2-page. You can print it out both sides if you want and stick it on your wall. The menus in ION, the terms we've talked about, definitions, links to more learning, everything that you need on one page. That's the idea there. So hopefully you find that helpful. And I really want to thank you for hanging in there for the whole hour with us.
All right. It's been a fun talk. Thank
It
you.
has been a fun talk.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll end the
Thank you all.
session and thank our panel for your time as well.